it going, guys? Kyle here at LLLReptile Escondido. Today we're going to make a Chinese water dragon setup. So what I've got here is a 60-gallon terrarium. In here I've got a mixture of Orchid Bark and some Eco Earth. And what you kind of want to do with that bedding is you want to make it so you can kind of see a layer of humidity in there. And that's what these animals like. They want high humidity. That's why we have this big old water bowl in here. That's gonna do a lot for raising the humidity levels in there. We've also got that filter in there. And that's gonna help circulate the water. These animals don't always recognize that there's water in there because they can't see standing water. So that's gonna help it move the water around. They're gonna know that it's water in there, and it's also going to just filter it out. There's going to be stuff that's going to get in there and whatnot. You want something that's going to circulate and filter the water. So that's what we have so far. All right, so what we have in here now is a 20-gallon jungle gym piece, and we've also got a ficus tree. Now the ficus tree we have in here because we know that it's going to do well under the lights that we're going to provide for this animal, and it's also going to provide like hiding spots for him and whatnot. And especially with the jungle gym, the animal's going to climb up on here, it can bask and whatnot, but it can also feel really safe and secure under the plant that we have in there. So that's why we've done that. Okay, so now what we've done is we've added a bunch of different types of foliage in here. We've got some different types of bushes and plants. We've got a Mag Naturals vine on here with some pretty thick leaves that they can hide in. We've got a little box bush down here. We've also added this sandblasted grapevine. It's going to add an area they can kind of perch themselves on and bask. And the reason why we've kind of set it up this way with so much plants and whatnot is these animals are very, very shy. They like a lot of hiding spots. And while it may seem like you're not going to see your animal all that often, that's kind of the point, just because these animals are so shy, and you do want it to be this dense in there. They're gonna be hiding in all of this and whatnot, and at times it may feel like that scene in the first Jurassic Park where it's like, where's the animal? But you want it that way. So that's why we have it set up like this. That if you want a lot of hiding spots, you want it to be really, really dense in there.
Alright, so while Kyle is adding moss, I added in this little alligator crocodile skull thing there to make it look cool, because again, if you're not going to see a ton of the animal, you might as well have a really cool looking cage. Then Kyle, why don't you explain why you're adding the sphagnum moss in there?
Well, what moss does is it also helps with the humidity. It's going to hold water really, really well, and it kind of just gives the animal another kind of element of being able to hide in something. They can kind of burrow in that if they want or something like that. They're not really burrowing animals, but they'll hide in it. So you have an added advantage with that stuff.
Then the end goal here is so that every time you open this cage, one, you want the cage to look like a tropical jungle, like where they came from, and every time you go into the cage, you want it to feel super muggy. Every single time you open that lid, every single time, like the entire time the animal's living in there, you want this cage to be super humid, super muggy, basically super high humidity. Like you can actually feel it when you put your hand in the cage, and that'll actually make it the healthiest for your animal. And again, you've got a big, huge section of cage that's going to be this big water section. That'll help a lot. Keeping the moss damp will help a lot. The goal here is just to kind of fluff it up, put it all over the place, let it get nice and wet, and then let the water evaporate into the air and just keep adding moisture. You should be checking your moss to make sure it's wet at least every day, and you're probably going to have to mist this cage every single day, if not 2 or 3 times a day. And to kind of work on how to make it a little bit easier for you to keep the humidity high, we'll talk about couple different misting options and things like that you can do as well. But for now, for the plain and simple, this is the easier way, or the simplest way, which is to hand mist the cage and to go in and manually check all the moss and stuff yourself. So Kyle's going in there, he's adding in a bunch of moss. We're using about an 8-quart bag of moss in this cage, so that you guys following along at home can go ahead and grab the stuff kind of do the same thing yourself. And there you go, on to the next step. Alright, so I jumped in here real quick to talk about the lighting and everything because that can be a really complicated topic and I know some of you can get kind of lost with that. Alright, so what I did for these guys, because they like it a little cooler, is I went and grabbed the ZoomEd Day-Night Tropical Lighting Kit. What this does is it has a ZoomEd day bulb and a ZoomEd night bulb. They're both 60 watts. What that means is it's going to get a nice kind of generalized heat underneath it, but it's not going to be so hot that it's overwhelming for them. It's not going to burn them. It's not going to dry out the cage too much. You're going to use the blue one, which makes a white light during the day, and you're going to use the red one, which makes a red light at night. These I have plugged into one of my favorite things, if you've watched any of the other videos, is the Zilla Power Center. The blue is going to be for nighttime, the yellow is for daytime. So we've got our daytime bulb, which is the blue one, is plugged into the yellow spot, and the red bulb, which is for night, is plugged into the blue spot. So that's it. We've got it right here over where we had that jungle gym in the cage, so that way our little water dragon can go ahead and get nice and warm there. And then for UV, I've got the ZoomEd high output terrarium hood, and what this is it's a 5.0 that produces a lot of visible light as well as UV. And I've got that over the entire rest of the cage, and it actually kind of overlaps with the basking area a bit, so that way the animal can bask and get UV as well as heat. These high output lights are super neat. They're a lot sleeker, as you can see, compared to the usual fixtures that used to be on top of cages. This is really slender, it's really thin, you almost can't tell that it's there, and it's a really nice, high quality light that's going to last you a while. It's going to last you at least a year. Like most UVB lights, it starts to kind of peter down at the 10 to 12 month mark. So if you can, get a UVB radiometer to kind of check your UV lights, but if you can't do that, then just make a schedule right on the bulb, in the little section that they leave for you, write that you need to change the date for the light bulb. Write that down there, change it every 12 to 13 months or so that way your animal does the best. That's going to be your lighting and your heating. Your daytime bulbs are going to be on for about 10 to 12 hours every day because these guys are tropical. They don't really need a winter cycle, so you can kind of keep it at 12 or even 13 hours a day year round. The last thing that I added was one of these Zilla Hygrometer thermometers. It's got two probes, one for humidity, one for temperature. And right now it's here in the cage. It's actually really warm in the store. It's 84 degrees here in the store and inside the cage. But humidity is only 39%, so it's relatively dry here. What you'll want to do is kind of watch that, the humidity. What you can do and what would work the best is usually to water it down super heavy, let it run for a bit, let the probe itself dry off a bit, and then check your humidity gauge. The probe itself should be dry, but the cage itself should feel like you open the cage and it should feel muggy in here. Look at the humidity at that point. It's usually about 80%, if not 90%. You're going to want it to spike that high at least twice a day. So make sure that you've got your water running in the water bowl, spray down the whole cage. You can add on a ZoomEd Reptifogger, you can add on a Mist King, you can add on the Exoterra monsoon system. There's a ton of different stuff that you can put on there. I highly recommend getting the ZoomEd Reptifogger because the way that this cage is set up and the amount of humidity you're going to put in here, the fog is just going to roll down and roll in, and with the water moving in that water bowl, it's just going to look super cool with the water kind of bubbling and moving the fog around. So that's a really cool effect that you can actually put in this cage that'll make it a lot easier for you. So this will work for a baby water dragon for about the first year of its life. After that, this is going to be suitable for just about raising any small tropical little lizard or even a snake or two. But again, for a water dragon, it's going to mature at about 3 feet long. So it's going to mature as long as the cage is. So, well, again, while this works for a baby, you don't want to put an animal as big as the cage into a space this small. Water dragons in particular move a whole bunch. They're really, really active, and they are extremely prone to banging their nose on the glass and rubbing it. So again, the whole reason you've got this cage set up this way is not only to keep the humidity up and to give your animal places to hide, but so it feels so safe that it doesn't feel the need to bash its nose into the glass. Once it's about a year or two old, or about 14 or 15 inches long, you're going to want to change it into usually a custom enclosure, a 6-foot vision cage. There's not a whole lot of commercially made options that are going to be big enough for an adult Chinese water dragon, so definitely keep that in mind. They are a relatively inexpensive animal. They're super cute as little babies, but an adult is definitely not a beginner animal. It's kind of like an iguana. Babies are super cute, but adults are no joke. They need a big custom enclosure. Chinese water dragons, 3 feet long, not nearly as big or aggressive or as demanding as an iguana, but they do require a really big, usually a custom enclosure. So that's something to keep in mind. If you want to order any of these items, if you want to follow the step-by-steps, every single item that we use in this cage, go ahead and go to the About section, which will link all of the items on our website. The one thing that you cannot get on our website that we cannot ship to you is this exact cage. We cannot ship glass cages this size. They break. It's just not feasible. However, you can get front opening Exoterra cages shipped to you for a flat shipping rate. So that's something to consider if you absolutely must get everything on our website. Otherwise, you can usually find cages like this locally. Everything else, though, we do carry on our website, which is www.LLLReptile.com. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And there you go. That is your #1 most requested video, how to set up a Chinese water dragon. That's it. There you go.